All right. So if you're watching this, welcome to this edition of Digital Badge Academy, latest podcast. And today our guest is Darren Surch, who is COO of Interskill Learning, respected industry expert on mainframe workforce training, a noted speaker at mainframe computing conferences and events worldwide, and also one of only 32 IBM champions worldwide, a distinction that is given to non-IBM employees. These are people that work out in the industry that work with IBM technology. It's the highest distinction that IBM actually gives. And I know, um, Darren, that you're one of only two who actually have earned the lifetime IBM champion distinction for IBM Z mainframe
In the
technology,
mainframe
which is
space.
pretty impressive. Um, so over 30 years, Darren has driven the evolution of digital mainframe training from once what was simple computer-based training on standalone PCs to today's globally deployed multimodal mainframe workforce training programs. And I know, Darren, that that's all been in support of a quest to find a better way to train mainframe personnel. And cumulatively, I believe you all have now trained over 1 million mainframers globally and have the distinction of being the world's most delivered, awarded, and IBM credentialed IBM Z mainframe training annually, literally creating careers for generations of mainframe professionals. So that is Darren. Hopefully, I didn't steal too much of your thunder. Stop blushing. Um,
It sounds so grand when you say it.
so, so there we go. So, David, I'm going to turn it over to you to get the question session started here and see what we learn.
Yeah, and we're just so honored to have you here, Darren, because you've been with the IBM badge program uh, since the earliest days, and you've helped influence that program as well. So, just a quick question, just to add on what Jim was saying. Just a couple things. One is, if you were going to give an elevator pitch about what it is you do, or what your passion is, and also maybe a little bit about what mainframe technology. I think a lot of people think that mainframes are gone because they're hidden from most people. So maybe you could talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and thanks very much for the invitation. It's terrific to speak with you, gentlemen. Um, an elevator pitch. The mainframe, IBM's mainframe is still alive and well. I think it's just under 90% of all financial transactions. So credit cards, banking transactions, etc., still run through mainframes. So the mainframe's the heart and soul of global business, with its security and power. All of the banks and financials use it. I think over 80% of the world's business data still sits on mainframes as well. So again, the way global business is done today, that's all on the mainframe. It's the heart and soul. So general public may not know too much about the mainframe. Every time you book an airline ticket, every time you use a bank, every time you swipe a credit card or purchase something online, all runs through mainframes. So the mainframe is incredibly important to the way the world runs. Interskill, my company, as Jim said, does training, e-learning on mainframe computing for all of the programmers and systems personnel globally that run these mainframe systems. We deliver a lot of training digitally. I remember in 1990 when we first started with this computer-based training thing that no one had ever heard of, because all the training had been done with classrooms before that through IBM. I would go and visit mainframe managers with this new computer-based training and show them this stuff on a PC, and they'd look at it horrified. They didn't quite know what this thing was. But with the internet and the way e-learning has transformed, I don't think there's anybody out there that doesn't know e-learning and hasn't done e-learning courses. Schools use it, colleges use it, corporates use it extensively. So e-learning is widely used today. We went from maybe 2,500 companies worldwide that are big enough to run a mainframe. We used to deliver about 250,000 hours of mainframe training a year, which is massive. That's a lot of training globally. But we as you said, saw the IBM Digital Badge program and thought this is absolutely perfect for e-learning. There's such incredible synergy for e-learning and digital credentialing, and so we embraced IBM's Digital Badge program, wrapped our whole product around it, all of our curriculum of e-learning courses. So 6 or 7 years later now, last year we delivered 960,000 hours, so it's sort of quadrupled, and a
Wow.
good part of that is just the drive that digital credentialing gives on a micro level, just people wanting to earn credentials. You know, having training available is half the battle. Getting people to do the training's the other half the battle, and the credentials are what drives a lot of that stuff. So, you know, the IBM Badge program and digital credentialing in general, we have so much to thank for the sort of the size we are and the impact we have across the industry. And I'll try not to get long-winded. I hope that answered your question.
Oh yeah, yeah, definitely. That's fascinating. Um, so just continuing sort of along that same thread. So what do you see any particular challenges around mainframe technology workforce readiness at Interskill?
There is. When you think about the mainframe came out in '63, IBM's System 360 came out in 1963, and so through the '60s and the '70s, the big corporations that ran the mainframes hired a lot of people, built up their workforces, the programmers and systems people and so forth. But if you do the math, these are baby boomers. So a lot of these original mainframe personnel are getting senior now, and they're starting to retire. So the next generation of mainframers is coming in. IBM's done an enormous amount of work with universities and colleges to have graduates come out with mainframe skills, but a lot of the training is done, you know, lifelong learning. A lot of the training is done by these corporations. They'll train up their personnel, which again is where Interskill comes in. So these are critical systems. These big corporations rely on the mainframe at the heart and soul of their information systems. They have to train their personnel, and not just train them, they have to be optimally trained. And the mainframe also now is not the monolithic computer sitting in a data center that it used to be 20 or 30 years ago. The mainframe touches everything now. It interacts with all the other systems, even to the point of IBM's new quantum is starting to interact with the mainframe, you know, quantum computing, which is super, super cool. So personnel working on the mainframe have to be not only skilled on the mainframe, they have to be skilled on a variety of other distributed systems and other systems and so forth. So the need for training for this relatively small global workforce of highly skilled people is incredibly important to, you know, one data breach, one hour of downtime on a mainframe. These things run at, I think it's 7 nines availability. So they're available 99.9999999% of the time. So that their downtime is measured in minutes per decade. That's how robust and powerful these things are. And even minutes of downtime for these organizations can cost millions or tens of millions of dollars. So again, the systems are incredible, but downtime can come from people not being trained or not being skilled and making errors and things like that. So there's a real constant attention to keeping the skill levels up on these people, and also training that next generation of mainframers to take the place of the people that are retiring and continue the mainframe into the future.
You know, that's really interesting because I you know, one of the things I wondered about was the challenges with the talent. And in particular, you know, there is an aging workforce that grew up running these mainframes, and now there's a new generation, and the new generation sometimes doesn't understand the you know, how the mainframe systems work and what the opportunities are for jobs. I think a lot of people kind of get kind of seduced by the idea of being a developer or something that's very, you know, customer facing. But so, do you face any kind of challenges like that trying to attract people, or you know, what are any challenges you have trying to get people in the door?
I mean, the mainframe industry, again, Interskill's a training vendor that does training across the board for the companies that run these mainframes. I know that mainframers are generally more highly paid than their peers in distributed systems. And what we're seeing a lot of, as well as the juniors coming out of university, graduates coming out of university and doing their training and moving into a mainframe job role. You're right. A lot of youngsters come out of university and they want something a little more sexy than what they think the mainframe is. They want to develop games or do web apps or things like that. What we're finding is a lot of these big corporations will look to their non-mainframe IT personnel, their Java programmers and .NET programmers and C programmers and so forth, and they'll train them internally on mainframe skills. So they'll teach them how to code COBOL and Kix and assembler and teach them IBM system stuff. And then when the job comes up in the mainframe space, paying 10, 20% higher than what these people are earning, they go, oh, I know stuff about this mainframe, and look at this, what a fantastic job, and it's better pay, and so on and so forth. And they'll start to transition, horizontally move across in the organization. Works incredibly well. And again, digital credentialing ties into this so perfectly, because as these people do this training, they're earning IBM digital badges. And as a corporation, they can look and do a pick list through Credly and see, okay, I need someone with COBOL skills and this skill and this skill and this skill. Who's earned the badges through Credly? Okay, here's a pick list of the people in my organization that have these mainframe skills. Reach out to them and say, new job here. You're already qualified because of your training. Not only have you done a course, it's a course that is verified by these digital credentials from IBM. So this is IBM saying, yes, you've done this training to this nth degree. Again, with the metadata in the digital badges, you can click on the badge and see exactly, it's not just a COBOL course. Okay, what did they learn? Click on the COBOL course badge and see these are all of the components down to a granular level of what they've earned. So for corporations, it's not just a skill thing, it's all of the verification and so forth of the digital credentialing. And I got out into the weeds there, I'm sorry.
No, it's interesting.
But it's amazing the synergy between all of these things and the way that it tracks, and not just the tracking, but that verification from IBM saying, this isn't just a COBOL course, this is a COBOL course that IBM says has the skills that these people need, and we back it and we say they know their stuff if they've earned this badge. It's incredibly powerful.
I was talking to somebody at IBM, and it was an executive at IBM that had a client. It was a major bank, and they had been paying a lot of money to use services like LinkedIn to try to find talent to run their mainframes, and they couldn't find it. And they spent months looking for it. We gave them access to the data in the badge wallets.
Yep.
And within an afternoon, they found somebody who had exactly what you just said. They went in and they found, I need this particular badge and I need this other one as well. I need COBOL and I need Z.
Yep.
And within an afternoon, they had, I think, 4 or 5 candidates.
It's incredibly powerful. Just as a little extra snippet of information, there's a gentleman by the name of Josh Bersin, Bersin, who's just a luminary in the training space. And he and his organization did a big study on hiring and sourcing personnel and all that sort of stuff. Apparently it's 6 times more expensive to actually go out looking for personnel than it is to train internal personnel for the skills needed for a job role. So again, that's why a lot of companies will take internal people. They're already onboarded, they already know the company culture, they already know the systems, they're already there, and they can just come straight across because they've been internally trained. And again, things like what Interskill has, that on-demand, global training at everyone's fingertips, means that these people can sort of train as they work and earn these badges. So 6 times more expensive to look outside with recruiters and onboarding and lost productivity when they first come in and all of that sort of stuff. So it's on a corporate level, it makes endless sense to do exactly what you said. Use the power of the data of the badges and find the exact people you need for the job role and bring them across internally, or foresee that these jobs are going to be needed. A group of people are 2-3 years from retirement. Okay, let's get this group of people training on these courses now, so that in 3 years, when these jobs come up, they'll have earned these badges, they'll have done these skills, and there's a natural transition. And because you've got that objective data to look at this stuff on a big picture, you can plan all this stuff, and you're not running around scrambling looking for people at the last minute. You can see it all coming. So
Right.
anyway.
That's fantastic. So you mentioned the credentialing, and I know people that are watching or listening to this um, would love to know, what was sort of the uh, trigger, so to speak, that really made you sit up and take notice of the need to bring digital credentialing and badges to your strategy at Interskill, and what are some of the impacts that you're seeing since doing that? Can you kind of expand on that a bit?
Yeah. Yeah, and as I said right at the start of our chat, taking us from 260,000 hours of mainframe training a year to 960,000 hours of mainframe training a year delivered globally in 6 or 7 years is there's the exclamation point on the end of that question. We just on a
So let
personal
me
level.
let me
Yeah,
interrupt you there
please.
for just a second. So I mean that's pretty compelling.
It's
So
massive.
that kind of growth. So then what you're saying is the digital credentialing definitely
Drove that. Yeah,
helped drive that.
anecdotally at a conference, a manager from one of these mainframe companies who was a friend of mine um, that used the Interskill training. He dropped by our booth at a Share conference. That Share is the mainframe user group conference globally, and he came in and he said, "Hey, Darren, I've earned these 3 badges in the last year." And as we're chatting, I'm doing a little bit of mental mathematics. You can usually hear grinding noises in my head when I'm doing mental mathematics, but I figured out that was sort of like 30 hours of training to get these 3 badges. And I said, that's brilliant. That's a lot of training. And as he was leaving, I said, just on a personal level, would you have done that much training in a year if it hadn't been for the badges? And he laughed. He said, I wouldn't have done any training in the year if it hadn't been for the badges. He said, the reason I did 30 hours of training is because I wanted to earn those 3 badges. So extrapolate that out over your entire workforce. Having training available, which most corporations do now, they'll have training available for their personnel, but that's half the battle. You can have the training available, everyone's busy with their jobs, and they get to December and they go, oh, I really wanted to do some training this year, but I haven't done any. Next year, I'm definitely doing training, you know what I mean? And then you get caught up in your work again. This drives training. This gets people doing 20, 30, 40 hours of training, and cumulatively, not just earning the badges and getting the recognition and the feel good about it, but it's cumulatively lifting the skill levels of the entire workforce. Because they're doing so much more training, they're picking up skills, they're doing less errors, they're doing jobs more efficiently, they're more engaged, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. There's, again, we're out into the weeds. There's another study that IBM did that shows that, again, for personnel at corporations, one of the main reasons they leave, or some of the main reasons they leave, are they're not trained to do their job. So they're feeling awkward and worried every single day because they haven't got the skills they need to do their job, and they know something bad's going to happen. So they're not skilled enough. They're not being provided with the training they need to learn the skills that they need to do their job. They're not being recognized when they have earned the skills and they're doing a good job. Digital credentialing and copious training means that people are skilled to do their job because they're being provided with the training. They're being provided with a path to upward mobility because they can learn the skills they need to move up and get promoted. They're being recognized because they're getting these badges and they're putting them on LinkedIn, and their colleagues are saying, hey, well done, I see you've got this stuff, and management's noticing and so forth. So anyway, long story short, IBM did this study. Apparently, people are twice as likely to stay with your organization if they're being recognized through things like credentialing and they're being given copious training. So at the moment, after the pandemic, thing called the Great Resignation, you'll see that if you want to Google it, you'll read lots of articles about it. There's an enormous number of people are leaving companies, changing jobs, looking for elsewhere. If you can double your workforce retention, half the chance that people are going to leave, these skilled people that you need that are already employed, the cost savings are astronomical. Just, again, digital credentialing and readily available training can halve the chance that your workforce personnel are going to leave, and the cost savings and the stability and et cetera in your organization because of that, it's almost incalculable. So
You know, you
I'm
mentioned,
getting again out into the weeds. My
no,
apologies
it's
for that.
really
This is
that's just
fantastic. Yeah,
Fascinating
I'm
stuff.
kind of enwrapped by everything you're saying.
and you know what's interesting about it, because you talked a lot about mindset in that. And I remember one of our early case studies on the badge
Yeah,
program was a woman who had been out of work. She couldn't find a job. She got a couple IBM digital badges, and then within a matter of weeks, she got a job at a good company. And so we interviewed her, and we thought it was these credentials that were getting her the job, and she said it wasn't. She said it was her mindset.
yeah,
She said, I felt like, you know what? It was I would, that they were not giving me a job. It was an equal exchange for my skills and theirs. So I went into these interviews very
it's
confident that I
critical.
had some
Yeah.
value to provide for them and they're going to give me money for that value. And I thought that was really interesting. So what's your take on all of that and, the value that students are getting out of this, or is there any impact to their careers?
Helps you get over that imposter syndrome that we all suffer from, doesn't it?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I mean the credentials and LinkedIn is you gotta love LinkedIn for again what it's done to help digital credentialing as well. People post those things and their colleagues see that they've just earned a badge and go, "Oh, I'd better earn some of those badges. My colleagues just earned some of those badges, But that recognition and so forth as well, that feel good, that uplifting. Also, back in the day, your resume that you used to write out on a piece of paper and present at a job interview, that's a single thing. In that, I mean, nobody sees it, nobody knows it exists, nobody knows anything about your skills until you decide that you want to go for a job that you just happen to have seen the ad for, and then you present this bit of information, and then those couple of people know about your skills. LinkedIn is 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days of the year. Your resume is there, and it's showing off everything you've got. So if anyone's looking for people with certain skills, again with the badges that are put on there, that's objective. An objective statement by an organization that these people know their stuff. So that's there all the time. And like you said, people are being told all the time, yeah, congratulations, you have these skills, well done on earning that badge. And again, it's not just you saying, I know how to program COBOL. This is IBM saying, this person knows how to program COBOL. So there's definitely that confidence level and so forth. But I think with LinkedIn, it's 24/7 by 365. Your resume is out there, or at least your profile, your online brand is out there, and people are going to see that. And I mean, this all ties in. But since the pandemic, with remote work and hybrid work, and a lot of IT stuff can be done online. 10, 20, 30 years ago, and even further back, corporations could hire a workforce based on the people that lived within 20 miles of their corporate office. You know what I mean? That was the pool that you had to work with for personnel.
Yeah.
And hopefully you got lots of really good personnel, but you'd probably get a lot of personnel that weren't so good. Yeah. Because it had to be that geographic location. It had to be close. Now that people can work remotely, corporations, especially in the mainframe space, but right across IT, you can have people anywhere in the world. So you can hunt for the most highly skilled, brilliant people in India and in Brazil and in Eastern Europe and wherever they are, and they can work on these mainframe systems, and you'll find them again by digital credentials. You'll find them by the skills. If people say on their LinkedIn profile, I'm good at COBOL, I'm good at JCL, well, good on you. You may or you may not be. But if you've earned an IBM badge showing all the training you did and IBM's backing on that stuff, then suddenly corporations anywhere in the world can have you working on their team. So corporations that are serious about it can find the most highly skilled people because they've got the whole world as a basically a pool of personnel and talent that they can try and find. So the digital credentials are like the regulation on that, the authenticity of that sort of global talent pool and the way hiring's done now. So anyway, again, adding to the weeds, but it needs that, because otherwise it's just like all the other junk on the internet. How do you know? How do you know it's real or not? Well, the digital credentials give it that authenticity, that reality.
Yeah, it's
Which
not
is
on a
vitally important.
self-assertion, right? I
Yeah,
mean,
yeah, exactly.
Resumes, 40% of people lie on their resumes. I think is the number or
No,
something
no
like
one
that.
approaches greatness like they do on their resume. Yeah,
Right.
yeah,
But yeah, I mean, exactly. And I mean, I'm somewhat familiar with your learning offerings and the credentialing that comes with it, and I know that it's earning those is not a gimme because
no, it's
you
been
know,
very rigorous
yeah,
training for
there's
sure.
I mean, you have to be willing to put in the effort to earn those. So, kind of continuing with this idea of digital credentialing and badges, you know, providing that verified evidence that someone really knows what they're doing and they know how to apply the knowledge that they've learned through training in that. What are some of the recommendations that you would make to other, whether it be commercial education providers or even, you know, corporations, you know, in their learning organizations inside the business,
Yep.
that are considering, you know, using badging? What recommendations would you make to them to stand up the kind of high impact badging program like you have?
I mean, firstly, embrace it. I foresee that, you know, every level of as training goes more and more and more online, or at least a component of it. My kids at high school during the pandemic, you know, they trained, they did their classes online, and corporate, again, with that global workforce, and universities and anything and everything should be embracing digital credentialing because it's the truth. Do you know what I mean? It's online.
Right.
How do you know what's real and what's not? And obviously that's been co-opted by a lot of really awful people over the last few years. You start to wonder what's truth or not. But the digital credentials are truth, and they're from a company saying that this person has done this training, or spoken at this conference, or earned a patent, or whatever. Digital credentialing is not just training, it's for all sorts of achievements and so forth. But
Mhm.
again, it's that verification from an organization or a governing body or so forth that this person has done that. And again, it's not just a piece of paper of sticking on the wall saying I earned a degree, as marvelous as that is. On any badge, you can click on it and see, okay, when did they learn this stuff? What did they learn? How granular was it? What areas did they cover? You can start to dig down in and see to an nth degree exactly what was involved in earning this badge. So we saw that, back to your question, we saw that as really I suppose, a driver of training, because again, that's half the battle. Providing the training is half the battle, and getting people to do it. So we wanted to embrace digital credentialing because it would drive training. It would get people interested in training and push them to do more, which has been an enormous benefit to our company. It's it spreads the word as well. You know, if one mainframe department is using our mainframe training, you can bet all of the other mainframe departments, their personnel are seeing all of their colleagues earning these badges and saying, hey, how come they're getting all this training and earning these credentials? How do we do that? You know, and more corporations are sort of embracing the way we see e-learning should be done, and that is it should be open to the whole organization, so that not only the key mainframe people are doing the training, but other people who decide they might want to move into a mainframe job can access the courses and do that and earn the credentials, and so on and so forth. So this is the way training should be done digitally, not one person at a time, one event at a time, like classroom training used to be. So credentialing's helped us and lifted us in so many ways. I suppose primarily the verification and the truth behind it, the promotion that it gives training. The other thing that I speak about at conferences is a culture of learning, and Google learning culture, or culture of learning. The past, where managers used to have to tell their personnel, you have to go to this class, you have to do this class, you have to do this training, I need you to do training on this, blah, blah, blah. That's one way, but managers have to push that training. A culture of learning is basically the culture in your organization being that people are shown where to get training, training is rewarded and recognized, and it becomes cool. It becomes something that is part of everybody's job. You know, the days when people used to do one course a year and think that that was enough training have gone. Your half-life of your skills is getting very short, and people need to be constantly training as they go on new areas and keeping their skills up to date and so forth. So that culture of learning means that people are actively going and finding, sourcing training and doing training. and completing training to build their careers and to do their jobs properly and so on and so forth. But again, the credentialing provides the truth and the substance to it, and also the motivation and the recognition to it. I mean, there's no substitute for feeling good about something you've done. You know, your peers telling you, "Hey, good job," and your management going, "Yeah, this is great. This person knows what they're doing," and you walk around a little bit taller and a little bit prouder, and do your job a little bit better, and you're a little bit more engaged and more productive, and so forth. Again, extrapolate that out over your company workforce, and your entire industry. It just lifts everything up. So,
Yeah.
I got into the weeds, but I hope that answers your question.
It does.
We've seen. I can't understand why any software vendor, especially training, wouldn't embrace digital credentialing. I don't know why universities and colleges wouldn't use it in tandem with their printed certificates and degree graduations and so forth, or instead of any. I mean, we are animals. We're human beings, and we like to get rewarded. We like to be recognized. We like to feel good. All of these sorts of things. It's basic human behavior on one side, which will help you, get your product used or so forth. But it's also that truth and verification behind it as well. So other people recognize it and say, yeah, okay, this is the real thing.
Yeah, you mentioned something there. You can't pick up and read any study out there about what employees are looking for in terms of a work environment without seeing something about recognition. And obviously, there's a direct correlation between engagement and recognition, right?
Absolutely. Well
Yeah,
said.
we've all seen that, and I've seen it myself in terms of badging and how it can really increase that engagement. Just one other kind of little follow up, in my rounds in the industry and working with digital credentialing and badges now for going on 8 years. From time to time, I run across people that look at them and they go, "Oh, a sticker, it's just a sticker." And I know you'll agree with this, and so will David. It's far more than that. It's
far more
yeah,
sophisticated than that.
and like with your program, I know that there is it's not just complete the training and here's the badge. There's typically a series of courses that have to be completed that add up to some specific capability or competency,
Yeah.
and you have to be assessed at the end of that training, right?
And that's the way training should be on technical things.
Yeah.
And some training is videos that you can sit and watch. Another thing we've noticed with the digital credentialing, off the track, and then I'll get back, is just the increased effectiveness of the training. And what I mean by that is, without the badge, people may get to a video and be playing on their phone while the video is running, and just not concentrating really, because all they've got to do is complete it and they get marked as a complete. Yeah. And they've done the training, and their manager says, okay, they've done the training, but how much have they taken in? Okay. When there's a badge at the end of it, the end of course assessments, people try harder, people take note, people learn more from the course, because they know if they're going to be tested, they have to pass that test so they get the badge. They can't just go through and go, blow it off halfway through the course, or get a bare pass and say, okay, I've done my job, check, I've done the training. If they want to earn the badge, they're going to try harder, they're going to learn more, they're going to make sure that they pass that end of course. So again, cumulatively, that lifts the whole thing. The Interskill courseware is, mainframe is all we do, and mainframers are incredibly technical people. So our courseware is heavily assessed. There's quizzes and exercises and questions and interactions, screen simulations, excuse me, all that sort of stuff all the way through, and then mastery tests and final assessments and so forth. So it's very, very rigorous, as well as the digital credentials. Managers can run reports and see everything the person has learned and how they went on all these quizzes and in all these areas. And the really powerful part of that is if someone does a course and the only thing a manager can see is they got 90%, you'd say 90%, that's a really good grade, well done on the course. But what was that 10%? What they've learned everything in this course except for 10% of it. What is the 10% that they don't know? So the granular reporting, again, from eLearning and the learning management systems, you can identify, okay, they did really, really, really well there. There's this one topic, this one piece of technology, this one bit of knowledge, this one screen on this software that they just completely messed up. They did not understand it. And that, they got 90%, looks great, but there's a skill gap there. And somewhere on that mainframe system, a month, a year, 2 years, 5 years down the track, something's going to go horribly wrong because this person didn't understand this, and it could lead to downtime or errors or who knows what's going to happen. So by running this thing, not punitively, but by running these reports and saying, okay, this person got 90%, that's awesome, or this group did really well on this, but all of them seem to have a problem with this area, then you bring in a mentor or you run a webinar and say, okay, everyone did great, but they had a problem with this, let's go through it. Let me explain it to you. You know what I mean? And fill that skill gap, and then they know everything they need to know. And you haven't got those skill gaps that are going to cause problems later. So again, ties in with digital credentialing, but the power of objective data on what people know and what they don't know. Again, not punitively so that you don't know this is something wrong. It's just to fill those skill gaps and make sure that your people are optimally trained. If I may, there's the most recent, and this is such cool stuff. Stacked badge. If you're, excuse me, if you're into digital credentialing, read about stacked badge methodology. IBM's got some new certifications out for mainframe, and certifications years ago used to be people would come and do a 60, 70 multiple choice questions, and if they passed that at a certain pass rate, they were certified. Microsoft certifications and Cisco and so forth, and it's changing. But that was sort of the scratch the surface level of, it was hard to pass, but still not as in depth as modern certifications with stacked badge methodology. They're going through 40, 50, 60 hours of courses and quizzes and midterm exams and other tests and interactions and exercises and so forth. By the time they've earned the newer style of certifications, they've done 700 or 800 questions and simulations and interactions, and you can really get an idea of this person has rigorously learned all that they need to know right through the learning path, the learning journey, to earn this certification. So it's much more robust, much more rigorous, and again gives you much better sort of granular identification of what areas, if any, they've still got skill gaps and so forth. So I'm super stoked about these new IBM certifications. Obviously, full disclosure, this is a collaboration between IBM and Interskill is the training that people do to earn these certifications. But it's just so powerful, and such a really good indication of not just a skill, but that people, computer operators, computer programmers, security, etc., they know how to do their job. They've got those broad spectrum of skills, and they've proven it. So there's a reason certification is such a powerful driver of education, and digital credentialing is a big part of that. But I think this more modern way of using stacked badges, and the stacked badges being motivators all the way through. So you're earning skills badges as you pass each section. So you're not looking at 60 hours of training and saying, holy cow, that's a mountain I've got to climb. I don't know if I can do that. You're doing 5 hours and you're getting a skills credential on that topic, and you're doing 10 hours and you get a skills credential on that topic, and so forth. So it's motivating and pushing you through and breaking up the journey. So anyway, I'm rambling on here, but that's pretty cool stuff.
Phenomenal information for anyone. And I know on the stacked badging thing, even with the Digital Badge Academy training program, actually it's something that we cover in that as well. So I'm glad you brought that up.
And talk to David and Jim about stacked badge methodology. These two are geniuses of that sort of stuff. So reach out.
So as we wrap this up, so what's the one piece of information that you would give people that are watching this? What's the one tip or idea or a stumbling block that you've had along the way, or a recommendation for success? If you can think of one thing.
I mean, to narrow down to what we are, so we're a software vendor or a training vendor, if you want to go that granular. Makes no sense to me why any e-learning vendor especially wouldn't completely embrace digital credentialing. We use, or IBM's digital badge program uses Credly, which is, I can't speak highly enough of Credly. An amazing system, and the personnel that work there are phenomenal. The support and just not just support, but the wisdom and input and help that they give you to set up your badge program and how you wrap your product around it and so forth. They're not letting you wander around in the dark and find your way. They'll help you out. So for any training vendor, I would say embrace this. It's going to really exponentially improve the way your training works and the way your business goes. For corporations, again, this is just in my playground. As I said before, I'd say across K through 12 and universities and everything should be using digital credentials. But even in corporations, absolutely look for training that has digital credentials. It doesn't cost you anything. You're not paying for the digital credentials. But if you're going to train your personnel on training without a digital credential, if you have the choice between training without a digital credential or training with a digital credential, pick the one with a digital credential. It'll make your personnel concentrate more. It'll make them push through the training. It'll make them earn that badge. They'll be recognized. There'll be other people in your organization that'll say, oh, where did they earn that badge? I want to do that course too. Starts to lift all of those skills. That's just from picking a course that has a credential to it rather than a course that hasn't got a credential to it. So hopefully that'll feed on itself. And as corporations start demanding or purchasing or using training that has credentials, that's going to push the training vendors to have credentials associated with their courseware. But it should, because again, I've said this 4 or 5 times, but half the battle is providing the training to your personnel. The other half of the battle is getting them to do it and do it effectively. And the credentialing does that. So sincerely, pick training that has a credential. It's as simple as that. It'll build your culture of learning and exponentially increase the final training outcome. So simply as that, for no cost. It's just having something that's got a credential associated to it. So it's a bit of a no-brainer, really.
That's fantastic. Darren, we want to be mindful of your time. I know you have a day job. I can't thank you enough on behalf of both David and myself for taking time out of your schedule, very busy schedule, to sit down with us. We'd love to have you back sometime, maybe to kind of dig into your actual credentialing strategy and let people kind of take a deep dive into how you've wrapped that around your learning. And again, for anybody that's watching or listening, you can certainly go to Interskill Learning's website and you'll easily find information about their badging program and how it is wrapped around all of the education that's there. So it's a great resource, I think, for people to have a look at to see how someone else has done it. So
Interskill.com or Google IBM badge program and go to IBM and see their badges. Credly's definitely worth a look as well, Credly.com. Kudos to you, gentlemen, for leadership in the digital credentialing space. I've full disclosure, I've learned so much from you over the last 7 or 8 years. You're both absolutely remarkable trailblazers.
Thank you very much. This has been really terrific.
Thank you, Darren.
Thanks.